and welcome to this month's edition of the Game Show Canada. I'm your host, Marc Power. And folks, the webcam is back. I brought a brand new laptop, and so it's going to start looking a little bit more like it used to. Unfortunately, though, the video editor did not translate well when I converted all my files over from my old laptop. So I got a new video editor that I'm kind of learning on the fly. So some things may look a little bit different. I'm trying to make it as close as I can to the original until I can figure out how to get the old one back over. But anyway, let's just move along, not worry about that, and we'll talk about this month's episode, where we're going to be going back to Quebec again. Seems like I'm doing a lot of Quebecois shows this year. But I said right at the beginning that Quebec has been a hotbed for game shows in Canada. So there's going to be a lot of material covered over the course of this whole series. So let's get right into it and talk about this month's show, Tete de Lemploi.
L'expérience de cette labrade à Garden Party en côtoyant chaque jour la flamboyante Véronique Cloutier.
Bonsoir. Merci.
La Tete de Lemploi was a quirky game show from Montreal that aired on Radio-Canada for 2 seasons, from 1997 to the end of 1998. The host of the show was radio and TV personality Véronique Cloutier. Previously, she had been a host on Musique Plus, the music-themed channel based out of Quebec, but moved over to Radio-Canada, and this was her first assignment with the network. As a host, she does okay. She's a little hokey at times, but keeps the game moving, seems to be enjoying herself, and she's rooting for the contestants, clearly so. Passable. She's joined by an announcer and sidekick in Martin Roux, who plays a big part in the second round, and I'll get to that in a minute. The game is all themed around trying to figure out the occupations and hobbies of 6 strangers. So pretty much it's like What's My Line on LSD. 3 contestants and 6 strangers play. To begin the game, the 6 occupations or hobbies belonging to the contestants are posted on the board, one belonging to each of the challengers. However, the contestants are not told which one belongs to which challenger. Round 1 is the questions round. Each contestant in turn calls on a challenger, and a question is asked about one of the 6 occupations. If the challenger can answer the question correctly, the contestant scores 50 points. The idea here is that if the challenger and that occupation match, the question is pretty much a cakewalk for them. Whereas if they're not in that occupation, it might be a little more difficult. So 6 questions are asked, 1 for each occupation, going around the group of contestants twice. Round 2 is les épreuves, or the tests. In this round, each contestant in turn chooses on a challenger, who is then asked to perform some sort of task related to the occupation. Usually involves having to explain something having to do with that occupation to Martin. Once time runs out, a panel of 5 members of the studio audience then award points. They can award anywhere from 50 to 250 points based on how convinced they are that that challenger is the genuine article. These points go to the contestant. Once all 6 occupations have been played, the contestant with the lowest score at the end of the round is eliminated. Round 3 is the sprint round. While one contestant turns their back and listens to headphones, their opponent gets to question the group of challengers for 60 seconds, calling on an occupation and then a challenger who is asked a question. Each correct answer earns the contestant 50 points, while a wrong answer gets them nothing. Once one contestant is played, their opponent then gets to play. And at the end of the round, the contestant who has the most points wins the game, converts their score into dollars, and goes on to play the final round. For the final round, 2 different formats were used throughout the run. In the first format, the contestant is given 6 chips to bet with, valued at $50, $100, $150, $200, $250, and $300 each. And each one can be bet only once. The contestant chooses an occupation and a challenger and makes a bet. The challenger is then asked a question. If the challenger answers correctly, the contestant wins the bet. If they're wrong, then the value of the bet is deducted from the contestant's score. This continues until all 6 questions have been played. If the contestant can boost their score past $1,000, they win the cash plus a bonus prize. Otherwise, they just get to keep the cash. Under the second format, it was a little simpler. Throughout the game, the contestant's taking notes and has to decide whether or not to play it safe or go all or nothing. If they choose to play it safe, the contestant wins $100 for each correct occupation they can match with a challenger. If they decide to go all or nothing, and they get all 6 right, they win an additional $1,000 plus a bonus prize. However, if they go for all or nothing and don't get all 6, they win nothing extra. So it's kind of quirky, and it's an interesting little show, and fun for a few laughs and whatnot. But it's not something that's going to last long term, and that's why it only ran 2 seasons. However, over 400 episodes were recorded over those 2 seasons, so in that respect it did fairly well, and it was reasonably popular. Once the show wrapped up, Veronique would move on to an even more successful show, La Fureur. And after that, hosted her own talk show, Vero, on Radio Canada. After her talk show finished up, Veronique continued to appear on television and radio, guest hosting several specials. In 2008, her and her future husband, French-speaking comedian Louis Morissette, began hosting Bye Bye, Radio Canada's annual New Year's show, featuring sketch comedy, similar to Royal Canadian Air Force. Unfortunately, the 2008 special was very controversial, as it featured a large amount of vulgar and controversial humor. Among the sketches that received over 1,300 complaints from viewers was a sketch depicting the assassination of the United States President Barack Obama, as well as jokes about French singer Nathalie Simard. These were especially awkward as only a few years earlier, Veronique's father, producer Guy Cloutier, had been found guilty of sexually abusing her. This led to Veronique and Louis having to hold a press conference apologizing for the incident, in particular the Obama one, which was criticized as being racist, and explaining that it was not meant to promote racism, but rather to criticize it.
Despite this, the duo continued to host Bye Bye for several years. So I guess the controversy blew over.
So that's going to wrap things up for this edition of the Game Show Canada. On behalf of all of us at Game Show Garbage, this is Marc Power saying long may your big jib draw.